Alright folks, Acid Roots here. Welcome to part 9 of Let's Play Mystic Quest, and last time we were getting further in the Ice Pyramid, and we're going to continue to do that. Now, obviously, this dungeon, like I said, is very convoluted, but that's the thing is this game. I mean, it's still relatively early in this game, but it's just odd to me that we're only 9 episodes in and we're already at the second dungeon like this, because there really hasn't been that much to do. I just kind of feel like there's a lot of, I know I've watched the playthrough of this in the past, and there's a lot of like side quests that are going to happen. I mean, after we get the second crystal, it's not going to just be directly going to the third crystal, and there's just some stuff that, I mean, it really is like a good 8, 9, 10, 11 hour video game, and that's, you know, considering that we're probably in like hour 3, that should tell you something. So we're about 35-40% done, something like that. But really, I know that this project's going to be longer than Donkey Kong Country 2. I mean, that I got that done in 20 episodes that were approximately 15 minutes like these are, but it's kind of the main thing there. So, but yeah, I would definitely say we'll probably be done with the third crystal by like part 18 or 16, 15, something, I don't know, one of those parts. I mean, we're only in episode 9, so we've got more to go, but yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, I forgot that we're not going to complete the Ice Pyramid in this episode, so we will still be here in episode 10, so that's kinda, I forgot about that, so yeah. But this is like the third ice area that we've been to. You saw the one where we fought this character as the boss, and then we fought like the ice squid or something like that, but there's just been a number of them, but yeah, so getting ahead of myself, but yeah, I'm just plotting. I'm trying to figure out like some big videos to do for acidic roots and stuff, and it's kind of tricky just because I'm not 100% like, some people can come up with like ideas for big videos that are going to get them like, you know, a couple million hits and that sort of stuff, obviously larger YouTube channels, but I don't know, it's just tricky trying to do that. I mean, because obviously you have to do the trendy stuff. I mean, I'm kind of getting into the dexterity of like the YouTube algorithm, but it's simply kind of, that's like the main thing about it is, YouTube is just basically somewhat of a numbers game, but the main thing is it just depends. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that pisses me off about this website. I mean, I could get into that, but we'll just focus on Final Fantasy. This suffice to say that I saved you of like a 6-minute tangent of me being pissed off, but I am hungry. I've had some Lay's chips, and that's been virtually about it. You know, like I said in the last episode, I didn't have much to drink besides water. I'm going to the grocery store this weekend to get some stuff, so just gonna kind of see how that turns out. Yeah, so obviously we have to hit that statue. It's the main thing they're trying to convey, so we've got to get this last enemy out of the way, and then we'll be further. So we're actually deeper in the dungeon than what you might think, and I wasn't expecting that, but it is a pyramid, which means that it's layered. There are multiple floors, and I think it goes to at least the 5th floor or something like that. So, but this would be a cool concept. I don't know if I said this. I could have thought that I said this in an earlier episode, but this would be neat to kind of see in like, you know, up in Alaska, something like that. I mean, obviously, I mean, either any place in cold or hot where you'd put a pyramid is probably not a place that you'd want to go. I mean, I guess that there's kind of things like pyramids in like the Amazon and that sort of stuff, those Mayan temples, things like that, but then you got things like panthers and other feral creatures out there in those, so there's really no real place. They just need to make like a city pyramid. Just put one right in New York and stuff and do that sort of thing. Praise like people in politics and stuff instead of pharaohs. But it's kind of, So I don't know. I thought about hopping on Instagram today and stuff like that, and it's kind of a lackluster. I need to watch the news. I need to keep tabs on the news and stuff like that. I'm just trying to figure out. This hasn't been a whole smorgasbord of topics right now. People are still reeling from the after effects of the big sports events that happened this month, at least in America and stuff. And then even then, there's also the Winter Olympics that just ended, so that's kind of another thing. I don't know, that stuff just came and went. I don't know why. Like, I'm surprised that like Saturday Night Live and more things like that didn't go on. Maybe they did talk about the Winter Olympics, but it just seemed like, I don't know, between like the Russia and Ukraine stuff and then things of that department, there just was really not an overabundance to say about the Olympics and such. But I mean, typically the Winter Olympics always kind of is like the stepchild of like the situations there. It's always the Summer Olympics that get more conversation. So yeah, we're just, I mean, virtually I'm doing more battles than I probably should. So unfortunately, if you're really not trying to watch these, I could have snipped more of these battles, but then the episode would have been shorter. I mean, that's the thing about it, is because I have to kind of guess as far as like what the length is going to be beneath 15 minutes. I mean, when I snip battles, it winds up, I mean, no matter what, it's going to be less than 15 minutes. But if I snip every other battle, a video that would have been 14 minutes 50 seconds winds up being like 12 minutes or something. This winds up being a quickie, something like that. So I don't know, it's take your pick. I mean, these battles are really not that tedious and redundant. I mean, it's part of the game, but I know obviously watching every single one does eventually get tiresome. So I snipped a couple, but that's kind of the thing about it. So this is basically a guessing game, trying to get the right video length. That's why, I mean, normally I would have had this be like 14 minutes and like 55 seconds, something like that. But because one of the battles I snipped was like longer than, I mean, I was just at like before I snipped the last battle, the length was at like 15 minutes and like 8 seconds or something like that. But I didn't want that to be that way, so I snipped a 15 some odd second one, and this is what it turned into. So what you're getting, that's what you have to wonder, just that sort of stuff, just to kind of say. I feel like that, I mean, these are the lengths that Let's Play should be. I mean, some folks really like to have like the hour-long ones, but I feel like even if you get more watch time, I'd rather have more videos get views than more watch time. That's kind of how I'm becoming with some of that. I feel like, I mean, YouTube, I mean, really, I feel like YouTube just likes being spiteful sometimes, because they try, I mean, it used to be about views, and now it's about watch time, and it's kind of, you know, well, what's the big deal? I mean, really, you know, like there's people like Eminem and Post Malone and Dr. Dre and stuff talking about how a video, one of their songs has gotten like 1 billion plays, but, I mean, are 1 billion people watching the whole song or the whole video, or are they just clicking on it for like 3 seconds? So, I mean, that's just kind of the remark about it, is just wondering either way how it would and should turn out. So, but we're just going to keep belting through Final Fantasy. So I learned something. So maybe you didn't know this, but the character Jones, which is the hero character that we always control, his actual default name in this game is Benjamin. I wasn't aware of that. I mean, I've known about this game for how many years? I've known about it for pretty much 20-something years now. Never had a clue that the actual default name, and because like you're not really allowed to have like more than 7 or 8 characters, Benjamin is of course longer than that, so you can't even call the default character by his default name. It's funny how that, I mean, that's what I'd like to think. I think Benjamin is, because Benja is 5, yeah, so that's 8. Maybe you can actually name him Benjamin, but that's his intended name. That's the main character's name, is Benjamin. And Was not aware of that. I mean, all the other characters, Phoebe, Tristram, Kaylee, the rest of those guys, Ruben, I really, it just seems strange that really by default you can't figure out what the main character's actual name is, so it's good to be able to know that. So, old Benjamin. It's funny. I think Jones is suiting, though. I think it's reminds me of Jones sodas, If you don't know what a Jones soda is, if you're in some country other than the United States, get them. I don't care if you have to import them, get them off eBay, figure out a means to get them, because those are delectable sodas. But especially the blue ones. Yeah, so I mean, I was kind of looking up. Apparently, more fun facts about this game. Maybe you didn't know it, but this was the intended. Like this was supposed to be the game that made Final Fantasy popular more than just in Japan and stuff. Like the first game to do it was, obviously Final Fantasy VII is like the golden child in that sense, but this was the one that they were hoping would have been Final Fantasy VII, just because most of the time, all the ones that are not 3D and all the ones that are not Final Fantasy VII or Final Fantasy VIII just never did that well. I mean, they're always kind of a niche and kind of more cult classic kind of thing. That's how Final Fantasy's always kind of been. Like, what am I trying to say here? Like, Final Fantasy X, after like the 10th one, they kind of reverted back to their old kind of more Dungeons and Dragons and kind of underground popularity, but I definitely would say Final Fantasy VII and VIII really broke the mainstream to where like celebrities and folks like that would like them, but it was kind of the main thing there. So this was intended. I mean, from what you gather about this, try to sit there and think that the developers of this game thought that this game was going to turn out like Final Fantasy VII when it came out, 30 years ago. But I don't know. This game, as much as I like this game, the dialogue is just too stark, and Benjamin is just too much of a prep to really. I mean, Cloud had personality. He was just he was brooding. He was moody. He was an ass. He got the girls. He knew how to talk with women and that sort of stuff. So there just were a number of things, like Benjamin here is like, my GP allowance is only 2 GP a month, that sort of stuff. So those kind of lines is just kind of, I mean, it's intended for him to have been an adolescent, but I'm glad that Final Fantasy later on kind of wound up having like the situations that kind of made it more for like, minus just beneath the age of like 15 or so. But I wouldn't want Squaresoft themselves to hear this and then try to revert them back to just being for kids. But Squall was another character, Final Fantasy VIII's hero. Both of those characters had a very kind of brooding kind of atmosphere about them that just clicked well. They need to do that. That's kind of what like Robert Pattinson is trying to bring to the new Batman. Speaking of like 2022 and stuff, that's the new Batman. Like Little Caesars, I went to Little Caesars, got a Batman pizza. It's pretty dope. So they're trying to do that sort of stuff with it, but it's good to get that sort of promotion going. But yeah, so that's the concept behind this. This was intended to be like the Final Fantasy that broke the boundaries, but it, as I would have thought, didn't really handle that well. But it's not a bad game. It's not a game I'd give like a 2 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10. It's definitely like an 8, 7.5, 8, 8.5 out of 10. It's just good, but it's just very cutesy and bubbly, more so in that department. So, but alright, we're about at the end of this. I mean, we're getting closer throughout this dungeon. I'd say another episode or 2 and we'll be there, but, yeah, so trying to cap this off, but I know I still have like another few seconds. Alright, subscribe for more fun. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful night.